They say that you don't know where you're going unless you know where you're headed. Well, if they don't, they ought to. The point is, without a destination, a journey is bound to be aimless. And what's true of trip planning holds for sacramental life. So what then is the goal or end of marriage? In offering consent to a lifelong bond, where exactly are married couples headed? The Church speaks of two ends of marriage: the procreation and education of children, or the procreative end, and the mutual support of the spouses, or the unitive end. Let's say a word about each, and then coordinate them in turn. First, the procreation and education of children. In brief, marriage is for offspring. That's what sets this relationship off from other relationships. Marriage, we have said, entails a comprehensive sharing of life, with its spiritual, psychological, emotional, and physical dimensions. Other relationships, other friendships, may involve a high degree of sharing, but only marriage can claim to be comprehensive. Without being reductionistic, we can say that the physical dimension, as part of what is vowed and sanctioned in marriage, thus differentiates this relationship from others like it. It's with this understanding that St. Thomas refers to marriage as the greatest friendship and the partnership of the whole of life. But the procreative end of marriage isn't a matter of mere baby-making, as if the sole purpose of marriage were to repopulate the earth. As it turns out, any fertile couple can achieve that end. So it's not just procreation that's at stake, but procreation and education of children, or what St. Thomas refers to as the promotion of family. Marriage is ordered to the raising of children, to their humanization, their formation. This helps us to make sense of some of the Church's teachings about sexual intercourse. It's, in part, because of the education bit, that the Church, that God, only blesses sexual intercourse between spouses. Again, it's not mere baby-making. It's about the raising of children, and marriage ensures the support of both mother and father, the support of the family in this difficult effort. Marriage fixes wife and husband in the relationship upon which their children's lives are then established. Marriage supplies the requisite security for the flourishing of children. This also helps us to understand why the Church forbids the use of contraception or other illicit sexual practices in marriage. Contraception works contrary to the procreative end in a way that frustrates or perverts the expression of married love. It thus falsifies what St. John Paul II calls the language or the nuptial meaning of the body. It holds back part of what is intended by the very logic of conjugal love. This doesn't mean that the Church expects every act of sexual intercourse between married persons to be procreative. Nature doesn't even intend that. Clearly, there are periods each month during which a couple isn't fertile. So too, holy spouses can remain sexually active well beyond the point at which a wife ceases to be fertile. What is required is that sexual intercourse between spouses always be procreative in type. A couple should be open to God's plan for marriage in each act, even if there's only a low possibility or no possibility that this act will result in conception. In this way, they can be said to cooperate with the design of nature rather than to impose their non-procreative will upon it. This brings us to the mutual support of the spouses. Marriage and sexual intercourse within marriage is also ordered to a unitive end, to the nourishing of the love of spouses for each other. Acts of sexual intercourse can be taken to ratify or reaffirm spouses' marital consent. In older formulations, you might also hear it said that sexual intercourse between married persons can be used to cool concupiscence. This is the context for understanding the marriage debt. Spouses have, in a certain sense, a right to each other's bodies. The Church is sensible in her understanding of human woundedness and weakness. Spouses may struggle with chastity in such a way that, left without sexual intercourse for a long time, they are at risk of falling into sexual sin. And so, spouses can claim the marriage debt as a way to avoid peril. Obviously, spouses should never simply use each other's bodies. Inordinate concupiscence can imperil the goodness of sexual intercourse even between spouses. So too, both spouses should try to live marital chastity better and better as they work towards virtuous integration. Finally, a word about the coordination of these two ends. In the current language of the Church, we typically refer to the ends of procreation and education of children and mutual support of the spouses without differentiation between them. St. Thomas, though, refers to these respectively as the primary and secondary ends of marriage. In his estimation, it's clear that sexual intercourse is for children. This is the reason for which man and woman are created a sexually dimorphic pair and called to marriage. In the years since he wrote, though, Some philosophers and theologians have worried that this emphasis sounds too animalistic, that it fails to distinguish human sexual activity sufficiently from that of other animals, that it loses sight of the difference made by human rationality and dignity. A couple of Thomistic words to address these worries. First, as we've said, when St. Thomas says procreation and education of children, he does not mean mere baby-making. He means something more like saint-making, a profoundly human task. Procreation and education of children requires that parents furnish a child with the relationships and goods that lead them all the way to heaven. Second, the idea of two undifferentiated ends requires, of its nature, further specification. For two ends to function effectively as causes, they must be either identified one with the other or subordinated one to the other. In this case, the latter proves true. To those worried about the subordination of the mutual support of the spouses, have no fear. Secondary in this case doesn't mean accessory or unimportant. It just means that the unitive end is to be pursued within a conjugal life ordered ultimately to the procreative end. This is part of the argument against homosexual inclinations and acts, namely that this order is lacking. In effect, the general trajectory of married love needs always and everywhere to be procreative. Otherwise, we cannot differentiate the love expressed in marriage from that expressed in other relationships. Thus, marriage provides a clear destination for those who enter into it. Marriage is ordered to children and to the upbuilding of conjugal life for the good of the family, the polity, and the church. Thus, with the destination fixed, Christian men and women can navigate their way through various difficulties in life, claiming for themselves a healthy understanding of the sacrament of marriage. For readings, podcasts, and more videos like this, go to Aquinas101.com. While you're there, be sure to sign up for one of our free video courses on Aquinas. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with your friends, because it matters what you think.